Over the last week, I've noticed that the sun is setting earlier and earlier, and the sun is also coming up later and later. And I've also been getting a lot of questions about how to navigate fall, especially when your circadian health is intact. You may have a nice tan going, how to navigate fall and winter, how to navigate kids going back to school and keeping it circadian friendly. So if that interests you, then stay tuned. Welcome to the Evolving Wellness Podcast, where circadian biology and quantum biology meet nutrition, lifestyle, hormones, health, and everyday conversations. I'm your host, Sarah, board certified in applied quantum biology by the American Naturopathic Medical Board and certified in nutrition by the National Academy of Sports Medicine. This is just a quick little reminder that you'll never hear a guest on this podcast whose every stance I agree with. And that's the point. These are conversations and not consultations. The information shared here is for information and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of a qualified, trusted professional for all of your personal health needs. If you want more of my content, including my free long-form articles with citations, free ebooks, membership group with more access to me and my Circadian app that helps you integrate light into your life seamlessly, make sure to visit www.sarahkleinerwellness.com. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I'm so excited you're here. We are just going to do a solo episode, just me and you today, to talk about some of these techniques and strategies of shifting into fall and winter and hopefully answering a lot of common questions I get about this. Now, one little quick note I wanted to make: at the day that this is coming out, I am releasing my Leptin Master Plan program, which is for advanced learners and practitioners. You can be a coach or just somebody who really likes to integrate this information of light, circadian biology, leptin into their practice. We're going to have 6 weeks of Zoom calls and over 50 different lessons, probably more than that, dozens of scientific studies, and lots of information, symptom checklists and protocols, lots of case studies. If that's of interest to you, make sure you head down to the show notes. This is only open for a couple more days, and I'd love to have anybody who, again, is just an advanced learner and just loves this information and wants to take it a step further, or if you're a practitioner, a coach, somebody who wants to start using this sort of information with your clients to improve their health. I have a lot of amazing case studies where we use things like this, like today's episode, to help you understand you don't have to be perfect to feel better. You don't have to move to the equator to optimize your circadian health, to optimize your health. There's a lot of things that we can do to make you feel better by using these sorts of strategies. So make sure you head down to the show notes if you're interested. I'd love to have you. All right. So speaking of which, now that the days are getting a little bit shorter, I'm getting a lot of questions about how we transition to indoor living. And one of the biggest things that I want to reiterate is that our bodies are really meant to shift seasonally. We're not necessarily meant to live in a year-round summer, a year-round winter. When you look at the hormone and metabolic processes of the body, they do shift seasonally with these rhythms. There are different frequencies in nature that change, and our bodies are meant to sync up with those. Now, when we are living an indoor lifestyle, when we're not naturally synced up to these seasonal shifts and changes can absolutely feel more harsh. And you'll notice the further north that you go in the world, when you look at studies on things like multiple sclerosis, when you look at things like bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, these are a lot more prevalent the further north that you go. And there are more extreme changes in light. So the further north that you live, the quicker the light is going to shift and change. There's less UVB, so there's less availability of vitamin D. And a lot of people really have resorted to this chronic indoor living. When it's freezing cold outside, it is harder to go outside. And so I think it's multifaceted. We also have highly processed diets, convenience foods that are really not doing the best things for our mitochondria. And I think it's multifaceted. It's not just light. It's not just the food. It's the way we're living our entire lives. And we're just really, really disconnected in so many ways. So if there's one piece of encouragement that I could give to you in the beginning of this episode, it's really just going to be going outside when you can, doing your best with this information, because it's always going to be better to be consistent than to be perfect. And in the world of natural health, I think there's this whole thing of like, it has to be perfect or I'm just not going to do it at all. And this information doesn't work this way. I've seen so many people have radical changes in their health from making really, really small changes. So let's talk about the first question I get, which is how to deal with the fact that sunrise is coming up later and later. A lot of people have a beautiful sunrise routine, UVA routine, especially end of summer when the sunrise is not at an unreasonable time. It's actually, oh, it's coming up at 7, a little bit after 7 now. I can manage that. But then the office job creeps in or the school schedules creep in and you've got to get the kids back to school. And so this lovely laid back routine becomes a little more challenging. So one thing that I've always said is that, you have to have sunrise to set your circadian rhythm. And the more I've studied this and looked at this, and I'll have some scientific studies and research and data in the show notes for you, because I always love to provide that sort of thing, is that you can start that clock just by going out at daybreak when the sun is below the horizon. So in the My Circadian app, which is the app that I've kind of built to help people navigate this year round, you'll be able to get notifications to understand when daybreak happens for you. Now, we time the app with civil daybreak, which is when the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon. But if you look at the work of Scott Zimmerman, who is one of the world's leading researchers, scientists on light and specifically melatonin, you can start to get circadian benefits at daybreak when the light is actually shifting from dark to lighter. Now, when the sun starts to come over the horizon at sunrise, you're going to get the benefits of lux, brightness, and more blue light. As the sun goes up higher in the sky, the blue light is going to become stronger and stronger and stronger. But if you're someone that has to get up in the morning and you have to be driving in the car during sunrise, then I'm still going to tell you when you wake up to go outside and do some grounding. You can ground on cement as long as it's not sealed. You don't have to necessarily even be on grass if you're in like an apartment environment. There's all kinds of other ways you can ground just besides sitting on the grass, but grounding is another way to entrain your circadian rhythm. I've done several interviews with Dr. Laura Conover, and she has really pointed to specific research on how circadian rhythms can also be entrained by grounding and by connecting to the Earth's surface. So if you're someone that has to be out of the house before sunrise and in your car driving at that time, I'm still going to encourage you to get outside at daybreak and to walk around outside, do some grounding, get that subtle shift from darkness to light. And then if you can, do a cold face plunge. I love these because Zeitgeber is a secondary timekeeper. Cold is also a secondary timekeeper. So I'll often tell people, walk around at daybreak, grounding outside, cold face plunge, and then eat some protein and fat, a nice blood sugar stabilizing breakfast. So those are going to be really helpful. And just a little addendum, if you're someone who has a lot of questions and needs more help, needs more resources, I do have a membership group. I do recommend that you have either Quantum Nutrition or my Leptin Reset before joining, because a lot of the things we talk about are things that are included in there. But if you're someone who just has a lot of questions and just needs more help to integrate this and you're not necessarily practitioner or advanced learner, I do have that membership available for people who just need to get more specific protocols for their scenario. I'm trying to do my best to keep the information helpful for everyone and as broad and general as I can in the episode. So you've done your grounding, you've done your daybreak walking around, you've done your cold face plunge, you eat your breakfast. I really like people to eat breakfast before they get into a car. Number one, and hydrate. Absolutely hydrate with clean spring mineral water. Very important. You can also take a hydrogen tablet. If you are someone who knows you're going into an area with a lot of non-native EMF, I like the Axiom tablets. My code there is Sarah K. Those are really good. But you really want to get nice hydration and eat before you get in the car. Because even if you have a really old car, even if it's not full of Bluetooth, and congratulations, because I don't want to be tracked, but all the new cars track everybody. It's really frustrating. Even if you have an old car, it's still a metal cage that is really attracting a lot of non-native EMF. You've got alternators. You have a lot of things. It's still high non-native EMF in a car. So always try to roll down windows. You can get a lot of infrared. So even if it's still daybreak when you're driving, there's tons of red and infrared light, which serve as sort of a mitochondrial shield, helps to expand exclusion zone water. So whatever that means is it's helpful to just buffer some of the oxidative stress that you're going to be getting from being in the car. Then you've got the mental stress of driving in traffic and all of that. So do your best to really offset your morning with this routine, even if it's not perfect. Eat something, and then you're in your car, windows down, sunroof open or cracked, because light can bend and travel and get through those things. So if it's raining, I'll still kind of just crack a window open to let the infrared in, because on a rainy, cloudy day, there's still tons of red and infrared, believe it or not, still there. There's even some UV. So don't discount it just because it's cloudy and rainy. Window cracked open, sunroof open, get that on the ride. You want to try to get enough brightness or lux in that window as well. I've got a lux meter on my Circadian app, and you can measure the lux. Now, indoors, your lux is really going to max out probably around 300. If it's a really bright light, it might be 500, but your metabolism really needs a minimum of 500 in the morning. And you want to also get red and infrared. So you don't want to get it in a stressful way. A 10,000 lux light box is going to be pure blue. There's no red and infrared. It's just blast of light. Your circadian system's not queued up and ready for it yet. So even on a cloudy, rainy day, you can use the lux meter in Circadian app, the My Circadian app, which is my app. And you can use code Sarah K if you want to try out the full version of that. The free version is going to give you tons of stuff, but you want to try to get 500 lux or more, the more the better with the lux, from outdoors. And that's another cue that your metabolism and your hormones need, your mental health. This has been studied for mental health, metabolism, and mood extensively. All of those studies are within the My Circadian app. And you want to get that signal as well. This is equally important for kids, because I'll get the questions of how does this information pertain to kids? All of it pertains to kids, all of it. And so I've got kids, they go to school. We are very blessed that we have very flexible schedules. My son just started nature school this summer, loves it, but I can show up at 9:30 if I want to. I don't have to get there early. My daughter has a wonderful new school she's going to. She doesn't have to be there till 10. And so we really can take it a little easier with our morning routine, but not everyone has that luxury. My kids are outside when I'm outside. When we're in the car, the windows are down, sunroof is open. They're getting infrared. I'm doing all of this for my kids. My kids are going to eat breakfast. They're going to have protein and fat before they leave the house. They're going to have hydration. I'm always chasing them down with hydrogen water and their minerals. My 2-year-old always asks for his minerals. So they're getting those things before they're heading out to their prospective schools. Now, one other thing I want to mention while we're talking about this, going to indoor, going to school, is a back to school office wellness package that my friend Bill at Curativa Bay has put together for my show listeners and for just my community in general. I'm going to have a link to that down in the show notes, and the discount code there is Sarah K, which, by the way, if you're looking for a discount code for anything I talk about, try Sarah K, because I'm just trying to make that my code for everything to make it easy. But in this package, Bill has gotten the nasal spray, a sanitizer. So hand sanitizers, I don't like them. They can wipe out your microbiome. I don't like wiping out all the germs. This is actually a molecule that's produced naturally by your immune system. It's going to neutralize these pathogens without harming your microbiome. That's why I love it. We use the saline spray on the kids before school every single day. And when they come home, it's totally safe for kids. And in the back to school kit, you're going to get a kit for sanitizing. You'll get a kit for saline spray. You'll get a little skin spray. I'll use the skin spray on my daughter when her skin starts to flare up due to hormones. And this is just a really great package and value if you're going back to school, if you're going to be indoors more. So that's one other thing when we talk about kids and school. That is something that we do, is we use the hypochlorous Curativa Bay brand, because they're really, really very specifically stabilized of their product. You can get other products, but the pH is not stabilized and you may just be getting saline. So this is a great thing to use if you want to add a little extra layer of support and protection for your kids going back to school. The stuff with light is equally important, if not more, in my opinion. So get the kids outside, open the windows, open the sunroof, do all the things to expose them to that healthy infrared light. The next question that I get often is, what do you do about cold weather as it gets colder and colder and colder? And here's the thing. If you start going outside now in the morning, it's a gradual shift. It doesn't typically get to below zero overnight. And it's good for your body to be exposed to little bits of cold. This is healthy for the mitochondria. This helps your body to build brown fat, which allows you to have more metabolically active tissue. That's going to help you as you get into the winter months and the fall months. We're supposed to have a hormonal shift where, number one, we make more melatonin and less vitamin D. We want to go into vitamin D storage mode and go into melatonin making mode through darkness, through cold, and through more sleep, more rest, more infrared, because there's less UV light outside and there's way more infrared light. And so just gradually cold adapting as the days get a little bit chillier, it's going to be better. Now, my coach, Becky, who's in my group, she lives in Nebraska. She walks around outside in the middle of winter in the snow in tank tops and shorts. She does barefoot snow walking. That's not really for me, but I'm just saying she's been doing this for 5 years and she's great. She does really well in those cold Nebraska winters. So if you're worried about the temperature shift, then that's a really important consideration. There's a reason why our bodies are meant to go more so into winter mode, and we have to gradually support ourselves as we go into them. And then when it comes to nutrition, if you're going to be indoors a lot more, if you're going to be in a blue lit environment with a lot of non-native EMF, I'm really going to encourage you to load up on foods that have more DHA. And then you don't want to go overboard with vitamin A rich foods, but to have them in your diet, because a lot of people talk about supplementing vitamin A, how it can boost the immune system. I'm still kind of iffy about that one. I think maybe in bursts you can do that, but you don't want to necessarily do that all the time. I'd rather you have egg yolks, raw butter, maybe liver once a week. You don't need to have it every single day, but more of those vitamin A rich foods and DHA rich foods. We do salmon roe. Now we buy a brand called Caviar Roost. It's pretty expensive and I'm waiting for them to send me a brand deal. I'm just kidding. They don't know who I am, but I recommend their stuff all the time because it tastes really good. And I don't really like a lot of the other salmon roes, but Vital Fresh, Vital Choice, I believe it is another one you can get online. A lot of local Asian markets will have salmon roe, and trout roe is also really a good one too. It's probably less expensive than the salmon roe. Your local Whole Foods, a lot of times will have the salmon roe, but that's what we do with the kids. My son has been eating that since he was 6 months old. And when you're in a blue lit environment, the blue light, and there's scientific studies and things like this and more deeper explanation in my Leptin Master Plan course, it uncouples vitamin A and DHA from the eye. And so it can really pull your reserves down, your stores down. And this is going to reduce that electrical capacity within the body. It's going to reduce your mitochondrial capacity in the body. So what does that mean? It's going to reduce your energy capacity to constantly be under blue light and in non-native EMF. So you have to really add in nutrition to change the nutrition if you're going to be in those environments. My son gets a spoon, even though he's at a nature school, he gets a spoonful of salmon roe in the morning with his breakfast. They're outside a lot, but I know as it gets colder, you can't keep 3-year-olds outside all day. They'll be bundled up, but they're still going to be indoors a little bit more. You also want to start transitioning to warmer foods, baked apples, squash, root vegetables, just more of the fall foods and less of the high sugar, bananas, mangoes. We don't even really eat those in Georgia. There's no banana trees in Georgia. But the high sugar fruits, if you're eating a lot of those, transition off of those in fall and winter. Your digestion begins to slow down. We have less UV light, which means our body is less able to deplete deuterium in the fall and in the winter. So it's important to shift our nutrition appropriately. So indoors, just to review, under a lot of blue light and non-native EMF, you want to increase your vitamin A rich foods, your DHA rich foods. You also, I would grab a good pair of yellow blue blockers would be a really, really good idea. Viva Rays is a brand that they're a podcast sponsor, have been a long time. Their yellow glasses are a little bit less yellow Then the Raw Optics, RA Optics, are another brand that I use. I think my code there is Sarah. And you just kind of have to go with your preference. I know my good friend Carrie Bennett wears the Viva Rays yellow. They have their yellow tinted less yellow. And let me tell you why, because of a thing that can happen if you wear yellow blue blockers all day long in front of a computer, you never take breaks from them, you never go outside and re-anchor your rhythm, then you can actually get groggy. It can actually pull your cortisol production down. So I will, if I'm wearing yellow blue blockers, go outside, walk around, reset my circadian rhythm, take them off periodically. You don't want to keep those on all day long because it really will make you tired. Now, in my office setup here, I have Iris software on my computer and I'm in front of two big giant windows and I have my window open. You might see in some of my older videos, I had a lot more lights in here. I just kind of cut that out. I know it looked better, and my person who helped me set it up probably is like, why isn't she using all the nice lights I set up for her? And honestly, I just feel like crap if I have to sit in here and film and be in front of the lights. So I've made it more circadian friendly, and I use Iris on my computer. It's iristech.co, no affiliation, but that's a nice way to pull the Kelvin, which is the intensity or brightness on your computer, down. Now, most people aren't going to be able to do this. Mine's at an 1800 Kelvin, but a typical computer screen is like 5,700, 6,700 Kelvin, which is basically telling your brain it's the middle of the day in June. So you might have noticed a lot of viral posts about methylene blue lately on the internet, and there's a lot of fear that you could potentially turn your brain blue and cause toxicity issues. But what those articles aren't telling you is that those doses were 100 times higher or more than the standard dose. Now, I have actually been using methylene blue personally and have several clients that also use it. And when I choose my methylene blue, I choose Troscriptions because it is a physician-led company. They actually had 4 physicians that have used their real-world clinical experience to develop extremely effective health optimization solutions. It's pharmaceutical-grade quality because Troscription sources high-quality ingredients globally, subjecting each to rigorous testing to ensure unparalleled purity and potency. It's easy to dose. These buccal troches are actually scored, so you can divide them down into a tiny little dose to try it out. I use it for mitochondrial optimization when I've had a night of poor sleep or if I am flying. If you want to try out the brand that I use and trust, go to troscriptions.com/Sarah K for 10% off of your first order. That's troscriptions.com/Sarah K for 10% off of your first order. I know it's more difficult with kids at school to get them to wear yellow blue blockers. So, my son he'll be 3 in October, and my daughter is not going to wear blue blockers, but she's also not on an iPad. She's not on a screen all day. At her school, they don't do that. She's on the letter boards and they're doing more educational stuff. They're not on screens or iPads. So it's less of a concern for me, but most kids are not going to wear the yellow blue blockers. So what I say to kids is get them in the light before school, get them in infrared light, get them outdoors, get them grounding, hydrate them, clean mineral water. I use the Quinton hypertonic minerals, and then make sure they eat a good DHA rich source of food in the morning, maybe some raw butter, something good, vitamin A, DHA rich, and then bring them home, get them outside, get them grounded, more hydration. And you know what? The kids are a lot more resilient than adults, believe it or not. And so we just offset that the best way we can. Obviously, a regular school situation is not going to be as ideal as a homeschool, but I am not a homeschool mom. I have great and deep respect for those who are, and that's not the reality for everybody. And when I talk here on the podcast, I want to have compassion and understanding for everyone's situation and understand not everyone can do the homeschool, and give strategies to help meet people where they are. Not everyone can quit their job. Not everyone can move to the equator. And I question that. Sorry for going off on a little tangent here. I question the move to the equator because I think, especially if you're a Southern haplotype, if your mother's mitochondrial haplotype is one that's equatorial, then your body might thrive quite a bit more on the equator. But if you're like me, if you're an H2, your body is going to thrive by having seasons and having cold and not having a high UV index for periods of time in the year. So don't stress about getting everything perfect, moving to the equator, doing all the things. The body has adaptations and it has ways of moving and shifting, but we have to do some of the work as well. We have to shift the diet. We have to increase the hydration. We have to be willing to take the breaks to go outside, to look at things like blue blockers, and to look at our evening routine and sleep and be honest, are we in the bed scrolling till 11 o'clock at night? Or are we, wearing the blue blockers, getting in bed and getting more sleep? And that's one thing I want to talk about is melatonin and vitamin D. So they're both immune system modulators. And there is some scientific evidence that shows, and this is Scott Zimmerman and Russell Ryder, that melatonin can actually act on some of those vitamin D receptors in the wintertime. And so this is why, like I just said, it's very important to protect your melatonin stores in the winter. It's really important. My kids won't wear blue blockers at school. They won't wear them at home. So I have my home pretty much retrofitted for someone who's not going to wear blue blockers, my kids. My 2-year-old, he'll put them on and it's a fun little game, but he'll usually rip them off. And we don't really watch a lot of TV here, but I've got red light panels on the floor on infrared only. I have UV bug zappers because those are below the visible spectrum. I have Sauna Space sent me the awesome red light bulb. They were on the podcast last week. If you want to check that out, I love that thing. I'm probably going to get more of those for around the house, but I really have our evening environment set up. So once the sun goes down, our house has very circadian friendly lighting. We're not turning on overhead lights. We may have a few lamps with incandescent bulbs, but we keep it pretty dim around here. We try to eat dinner before sunset. And here in Georgia, where I live on the 33rd latitude, the earliest or the latest that the sun is really going to set is, earliest is going to be like 5:30. That's doable. 5:30 dinner is doable. It's manageable with kids, with myself. We build up to it. We don't just wake up one day and then it's, dinner's 5:30, right? We are gradually pulling it back. It's gradually being pulled back now here in the very beginning of September as the days are shorter. But if you live somewhere where the sun is setting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then you really ideally want to try to keep the dinner, 3-4 hours away from bedtime, if at all possible, because that's going to help with the onset of melatonin production. If your body is digesting food, if you're eating, it's harder for your body to get into that restorative mode, that melatonin mode, because it's busy digesting food, especially if insulin is up. That is going to block leptin and it's going to just create some hormonal issues. Now, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Do your best. And if you're starving before bed and you just can't do, the early dinner, I would have like a pat of butter with some crunchy sea salt on it, something to keep insulin levels low so that you don't feel like you're ravenous when you're going to bed, but it's something to build in. Like winter and fall are a time for more scarcity and a little bit more metabolic flexibility. And so if you start on that now, it becomes easier and easier and easier as you get into those winter months. And my kids are fine with not eating anything after 5:30. We did it last year. We'll do it again this year. I'll keep you posted. And the thing with melatonin is you should sleep more in the winter. We do have a lot earlier bedtimes in the winter than we do in the summer. It's just what we do. And so I'm tired because I've got the lights turned down, the sun's gone down, we've had food, we're done with the things, and we're ready to go to bed at 8 o'clock. You do need more sleep in the winter. Now, you may find that you go to bed earlier and then you wake up really, really early. That's okay, especially if you have just time to be leisurely. I think the winter time, the fall time, this quiet time of year is a really good time for reflection, for going inward, for just taking some space and time. Where summer and the first part of the year, I feel like is so busy and we're just on the go. And so I really love to capitalize on, if I wake up early, maybe time for meditation, time for some prayer, time for some writing, some quiet time. I'm not going to pick up my phone. I have very strict rules that I don't pick up my phone and look at it until after UVA rise. If that's something that you have to do for kids, for schedules or whatever, I would always keep your phone screen turned on red. This is how mine stays, is on red. Very important to do that. And with the My Circadian app, if you have the full version, the banner will pop up and tell you when it's daybreak, sunrise, UVA, so that you never have to go into your phone to check and see what time is that for me. So that's an advantage of having that full version. You can use the code Sarah K to get that at my Circadian app. So very important that we do sleep a little bit more in the winter. Now, I understand you may have events and things you have to go to. I would just do my best not to make that a regular thing. And if I had to be out at an event and I had to be driving and it was dark, I'd wear yellow blue blockers. Never wear red or orange while driving. That's really going to be dangerous. Trust me, that's not something you want to do. Let's take a moment to talk about tanning beds in the winter, because this is one I get asked quite a bit. And I understand you have been outside more. You've really got a nice tan. You're feeling all the benefits of melanin, which can be more increased metabolism, really increased energy production in the body, better mood, better energy, better immune function. Melanin is fantastic. I actually have this melanin book on my desk that is really fascinating if you're looking to read more about melanin. That's a really great place to start. And if you're listening on audio only, it's by Arturo Solis Herrera. It's called Melanin, the Master Molecule. And if you want to learn more about melanin, but that's one of the reasons, besides perhaps increased vitamin D levels from being outside more infrared, more grounding, more of those free electrons, free energy, you feel good at the end of the summer. And so a lot of people are like, I want to keep this up through winter. I want to go to the tanning bed. I need to go to the tanning bed. Tanning beds are different than actual sunlight spectrum in that most tanning beds are 95% UVA light and 5% UVB. So number one, that's going to just be a straight tan because we really get a lot of the tan from the UVA. And when you're in winter, you may lose UVB light in the winter, but you're going to have tons of UVA light for most places. Now, I learned last year that Norway and Sweden do not have any UVA light for part of the winter, and it's just all red and infrared, which is fascinating to me. So, I mean, you're only getting red and infrared. That's actually a healing, a place you could capitalize on healing if you're only getting red and infrared. There's no UV. So there are probably some advantages to that as well, of really going into deep healing and deep darkness and deep melatonin. But people get very depressed there as well. So with a tanning bed, you're not getting really a whole lot of UVB light to make vitamin D. So if you're like, I want to keep my vitamin D levels up, that's not necessarily going to be an effective way to do that. And tanning beds are also missing red and infrared. And red and infrared are absolutely crucial to balance UV, to buffer off some of that oxidative stress, to make mitochondrial melatonin, which is a powerful power master antioxidant that you make. Now, we make about 5% of melatonin in the pineal gland. The rest of it is made inside the cell, the mitochondria, in response to near infrared light. And so when you're in a tanning bed, you're getting none of that. And a lot of tanning bed places and gyms, they now have red light beds, but I don't know how many of those actually have infrared. They might just be red. Now, there are some benefits to just red, of course, but there are therapeutic wavelengths. And a lot of those beds do not have the infrared wavelengths that your body would really want to be exposed to in order to offset some of the issues with a tanning bed. I'll be honest, this last year, I've definitely noticed some signs of aging as I am 46 in June, and I'm always looking for natural, holistic ways to support my body. I've been a big fan of red light therapy for many years now, and recently started using the Bon Charge face mask to help my body produce its own collagen. Now, here's the thing that differentiates Bon Charge face mask from the rest of the ones on the market. It has specific wavelengths that are actually meant to target the skin and collagen production. It has been shown to reduce fine lines and wrinkles, and it is low EMF. So it's very safe to use. When you're actually going to have a device on your head, you want to make sure it is the lowest EMF possible. I have tested this with my own EMF meter and believe it is safe and recommend it to clients. So if you're interested in checking out the Bon Charge face mask, I have a special discount for podcast listeners. You can go to boncharge.com and use the code Sarah Kleiner, all one word, for 15% off site-wide. I really love the Bond Charge Red Light Face Mask. And if you're looking for more natural ways to support your body in this age and stage of life, I recommend checking it out. Go to bondcharge.com and use the code Sarah Kleiner, all one word, to save 15%. Then you also look at the research that I mentioned earlier of melatonin and vitamin D having some overlap. So melatonin being able to bind to the vitamin D receptor and have some immunomodulating effects. So we really should probably be more focused on building melatonin in the winter, sleeping more, going outside, being exposed to cold, infrared, doing a little bit more fasting, just tapping into the winter autophagy, apoptosis, cell cleaning, and repair mode. But we don't do that in our society, do we? We are indoors under artificial lights, under heat, eating processed foods, candy, sugar, especially in Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, the American holidays. We're just rife with processed foods and sugars and alcohols and all these things and staying up till late at night. And so why are we all getting so sick this time of year? And of course, I've got that back to school bundle from Bill, from Curativa Bay that you can grab as part of the podcast. But all the hypochlorous acid in the world to spray, disinfect, still not going to build the same resilience that living in a seasonal way. It could help, right? But it's not going to build the same resilience that living in a seasonal way would. So if you're someone that's going into wintertime, fall with really low vitamin D levels, a vitamin D supplement may not necessarily, and this is not medical advice, nothing on the podcast may not be your best option. If it were me, and what I did when I was pregnant was a vitamin D lamp, the Sperity vitamin D lamp, which I believe is 75% UVB, 25% UVA. So I did not get a tan from this thing. And I paired that with a red and infrared panel. Now, I think my code there over at Sperity, don't quote me on this, SPERTI is Carnivore Yogi 10. And I paired it with an EMR Tech red light panel as I was doing it. And you have to be really careful with those lamps because you really can burn yourself. They're very intense. But I was able to keep my levels up during my pregnancy. I was not comfortable taking vitamin D supplements after talking to Jim Stevenson Jr. and just understanding how vitamin D works in the body as a hormone and how we make multiple metabolites of vitamin D. It's not just one D3 storage marker. There's multiple metabolites that the body makes in response to UVB light, and you can't replicate that with a supplement, and there may be downsides to taking it. So that might be an option. EMR Tech has a light called the Krypton. I've got one of those. I've got a mini one and I've got a bigger one. My code there is Sarah20 if you want to try one of those. But those would be safer than a tanning bed. I can't guarantee they're 100% safe. I have to be honest with you. I would only use them in the middle of the day. I would make sure I would pay attention to see if I was having more sugar cravings, more trouble sleeping, felt a difference. I personally was fine during my pregnancy using the vitamin D lamp in the middle of the day. I also would do it in front of an open window, even though I was freezing cold. I would do it in front of an open window so my eyes were getting a midday light signal in them, and then my body was getting the lamp. That's what I personally did. So long story short, tanning beds are not going to give you enough UVB, most of them, to increase vitamin D levels. You're going to get 95% UVA, which will bump up the melanin in your skin, but UVA is also the frequency that has been shown to create more oxidative stress, especially in the skin, to break down collagen. And you don't have any red and infrared to offset that. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. I just want to give you all the information so you understand the implications of using a tanning bed, what that could look like. So just to go over some of these hormonal shifts that happen this time of year, we're going to start making a little bit less cortisol because we have a little bit less light, unless we're trying to trip the system, which a lot of times doesn't feel so good if you're artificially tripping the system with overhead lights, screens, all of that. So we're supposed to make a little bit less cortisol and more melatonin. We're really supposed to go into deep healing and repair mode. We also have different variations in leptin. So you may notice a difference in appetite regulation. That's where I'm always going to refer people back to the leptin reset, because appetite can get a little bit dysregulated as temperature changes. Leptin has a relationship with cortisol. So when cortisol is rising in the morning, leptin is supposed to be at its lowest. And leptin also has a relationship with melatonin, so that when melatonin is at its highest, then leptin is supposed to be at its highest when we're sleeping. And that helps us so that we're not waking up in the middle of the night hungry. But these shifts in light, the shift in cortisol, the shift in melatonin can also inadvertently impact leptin and your hunger. And so it's just something, not that you're doomed, but just to be aware of, to make sure that you're fueling yourself adequately, you're getting nutrient dense foods, and you're shifting those eating windows accordingly. Now, there's also some variation in the thyroid. Thyroid hormone also shifts in the winter, and people that are on thyroid medication sometimes have to take more in the wintertime. So that's another thing to pay attention to, those light signals, because light heavily modulates the thyroid. Blue light can penetrate the thyroid, especially artificial blue light, and that can cause issues with the thyroid. It uncouples vitamin A from the eye, which is crucial for thyroid. And so there's a lot that goes on in winter, I think, just beyond the temperature change and beyond the frequency change, that is impacting thyroid, and where we see a shift in people with their thyroid medication or just feeling a bit more sluggish, feeling like metabolism has slowed down, because there are seasonal changes that are happening from these upstream hormones, cortisol, leptin, and melatonin. If you want to learn more about this type of thing, then make sure you're joining my Leptin Master Plan that starts this Friday. I'd love to have you. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything else for this episode. Please feel free, if you're over on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let me know if there's any other topics you want me to cover in a future episode. But one thing I want to reiterate, because I get this a lot, is the cloudy, rainy, overcast days. And it just I don't feel like going outside, and it's just a bummer. This is why I built the Lux meter into my Circadian app, because I really want to encourage you in those cloudy days to know that, number one, you're getting a ton of red and infrared, which those are the healing wavelengths. Those give you mitochondrial protection. You really want to pre-treat your body with those wavelengths if you're going into an office. And you get those naturally from going outside. You can get a little miniature red light panel. I love the Bond Charge Mini. I think my code there is Sarah K, as usual with all my codes. But they have a battery operated red light therapy panel. I would, if I couldn't do red light therapy before I left the house, I would have that in the car. I'd put it on my thyroid while I was driving. I would put it on different body parts while I was driving and pre-treat. And I'd keep it on my desk at work. If I couldn't put Iris on, if the only thing I had was blue blockers and I wanted to protect myself from all the non-native EMF in offices, all the Bluetooth, all the devices, I would have a little red light panel there and shine it on myself. So those cloudy, rainy mornings, number one, you're getting the red and infrared, but you're also getting lux, you're getting brightness. And remember, the minimum threshold is about a 500 for lux to kickstart metabolism, kickstart mood, all of these things, neurotransmitters, hormones, all of them, they need about 500 lux. And you're not really going to get that inside. And that lux meter within the My Circadian app, now don't hold the camera right up to the light because it's going to distort it. When you're measuring lux, you want to keep the camera at eye level, because that's what is going in your eye. So, because when I first released this lux meter, a lot of people were putting the camera right onto the thing and they're like, oh, I'm getting like 500 lux. I'm like, no. Put it next to your eye. And that's the measurement. So most people are not going to get that indoors, but you will get it outside on a rainy, cloudy day. So don't let that be a thing. And I think having a mindset shift, just to wrap up the podcast, a mindset shift this time of year is one of the most important things. Because if you go into it and you're just bummed out, I love sunlight. I love being outside. I'm going to go lay outside right now, finish wrapping up recording this episode. Believe me, I'm about to go lay outside. But there are benefits to winter. You're going into restoring mode. You're going into repair mode. It's time to start slowing down. It's time to get out of hustle. And a lot of us we've been in that. And so this is a good time of year for that. And there are things you can do. Little mini red light panel, hydration techniques, yellow blue blockers, grounding, early bedtime, more sleep, diet changes, more vitamin A, more DHA. And I'm not telling anyone to load up on vitamin A and eat a pound of liver every week. Please don't take it that way. I'm saying maybe like one serving of liver a week, more egg yolks, raw butter, right? It's a balance. It is a balance. I don't believe that these natural foods that were provided to us will cause toxicity to the body if you eat them the way that nature intended. I feel the same way. I'll do another episode on this if there's interest. I feel the same way about things like oxalates. that if we're eating in a seasonal rhythm and we cook the foods, we wouldn't have a toxicity issue. But that's another episode for another day. So don't forget to check out the back to school hypochlorous acid package from my friend Bill over at Curativa Bay. That link will be down in the show notes. And leave me a comment over on YouTube if there's anything in this episode that you want me to expand on, if there's another topic you want me to dive deeper into as we shift into these shorter days, longer nights, and hopefully a little bit more rest. Thanks again for listening.